The 2010s marked the golden age of digital piracy. At its height, BitTorrent accounted for nearly a third of global internet traffic. LimeWire boasted more monthly users than Facebook, and the Pirate Bay served as the unofficial video store where nearly any title could be found. Hypothetically, of course, this surge occurred during a pivotal transition from physical to digital media, when even those without technical expertise began to understand that digital goods could be duplicated endlessly at nearly zero marginal cost. At its peak, 95% of all music downloads were pirated simply because piracy was cheaper and, more importantly, easier, an ideal way to fill massive libraries enabled by affordable digital storage. Then, surprisingly, the trend declined. By 2012, internet speeds had increased, storage became cheaper, and more people were comfortable with using computers, factors that should have accelerated piracy. Instead, peer-to-peer file sharing dropped sharply after 2015. The assumed reason was the rise of streaming services like Spotify and Netflix, which offered a more convenient, safer, and reasonably priced alternative. However, as these platforms have deteriorated in quality and become significantly more expensive, piracy has started to make a comeback. This might seem straightforward, but the reality is more complex. The companies behind these services were always aware this moment would arrive, but it was crucial to act as though it never would. Now, many users are reevaluating their subscriptions, realizing that multiple services, many underused, are quietly draining their finances. This leads to a paradox. Users find themselves in an adversarial relationship with services they are paying for. Most people would prefer to access media legally, as long as it is convenient and affordable. The average consumer understands that creating music, films, and games requires time and resources, and that creators deserve compensation. Interestingly, studies have shown that even habitual pirates are more likely to pay for content when it is made readily available. A survey conducted in Australia at the height of piracy found that these users were among the most active consumers on platforms like iTunes, simply because they were enthusiastic media consumers and often turned to piracy only when legal options were lacking. Two key developments occurred after 2013. While regulators attempted high-profile crackdowns on piracy sites, they quickly realized this was a game of digital whack-a-mole. One of the most downloaded files on the Pirate Bay, ironically, was a full backup of the Pirate Bay itself, ready to be restored by anyone with basic server access. But the real shift came with the rise of streaming platforms. Enabled by faster internet connections, these services allowed users to access content on demand without the need to download and manage files. Streaming quickly became the more attractive option because it was simpler and far cheaper than buying media individually. However, this landscape has drastically changed. Today, dozens of competing services have fractured the market, each raising prices annually, diluting quality, and segmenting content across exclusive deals. Ads are becoming more prevalent, content less relevant, and even individual shows can be split across multiple platforms. In many cases, watching a single film now requires searching online just to find out which service offers it, and sometimes which combination of service and VPN can unlock it. Under such conditions, piracy once again becomes the more straightforward alternative. Streaming platforms initially disrupted piracy by being accessible, affordable, and user-friendly. But as they've become fragmented, overpriced, and inconvenient, piracy has reemerged not as rebellion, but as a rational solution. It is tempting to attribute this solely to corporate greed. While greed plays a role, there are deeper economic dynamics at work. Music streaming, by comparison, remains relatively strong. Multiple platforms carry nearly all available music, making piracy unnecessary. Although artists earn less from streaming than from physical album sales, many accept the trade-off. Some revenue is better than none. This contrast raises an important point. It may not be that streaming itself is broken, but rather that the movie industry is. The golden age of streaming was never sustainable because it was never designed to last. Netflix remains the most dominant streaming platform globally, with over 300 million paying subscribers and a profitable business model. Yet even from its earliest days, Netflix understood it would eventually lose users back to piracy. This reality never concerned them deeply. In 2023, Netflix earned $8.7 billion in net income. Still, that level of profitability does not justify its valuation of over $500 billion. At that rate, it would take 57 years for investors to see full returns, a risky proposition in an industry only recently dominant. Investors aren't naive. They know Netflix's current model isn't enough. They are betting on a future where the company can charge more for less by slashing content, raising prices, and pushing new features like mobile games. Crucially, Netflix has cut back on licensed content, both to reduce costs and because many titles are no longer available. Competing studios have launched their own platforms and now guard their most valuable IPs. Although Netflix is producing more original content, it has yet to match what was lost through licensing. In this environment, piracy does not significantly hurt Netflix. It hurts everyone else. When a show leaves Netflix and users pirate it instead of subscribing elsewhere, Netflix loses nothing. A 2023 study titled Pirate and Chill found that content removed from Netflix saw a 20% rise in piracy. The study, though cleverly titled, underscores Netflix's competitive advantage. In the words of one executive, Netflix's goal was to become a movie studio faster than movie studios could become Netflix. Piracy disproportionately damages legacy content holders. While Netflix doesn't endorse piracy, it quietly benefits when it undermines competitors. Historically, piracy has even helped Netflix. In 2013, the company admitted to analyzing piracy site data to identify popular content worth licensing. Meanwhile, legacy studios continue to fiercely protect intellectual property, yet face a difficult dilemma. They could simplify access by centralizing content on a single platform, but doing so would mean empowering Netflix and option studios like Disney resist after heavy investment in their own services. The more fragmented the market becomes, the worse the user experience and the stronger the lure of piracy. Music studios, by contrast, cooperated to distribute content broadly and affordably, making piracy obsolete. Movies are harder and more expensive to produce, and cinema attendance has never fully recovered post-COVID. Ironically, one of the biggest box office successes in recent years came not from Hollywood, but from a music studio: the theatrical release of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. In the past, modest box office returns could be offset by DVD sales, but that revenue stream has largely disappeared. Studios now rely heavily on streaming platforms to recoup production costs. Instead of adjusting strategies, many have doubled down on big-budget blockbusters. Of the 20 most expensive films ever made, 19 were released in the last decade. These figures exclude marketing expenses and assume generous revenue sharing with theaters, which means only a few of these films have actually been profitable. Titles such as The Marvels, Snow White, Dial of Destiny, and Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning have all suffered major financial losses. Studios justify these risks by pointing to the potential long-term value of intellectual property, hoping it will drive subscriptions. But this strategy is flawed. Many users sign up just to watch one film and cancel shortly after. In contrast, those who stay longer tend to be fans of broader libraries filled with mid-budget content and rewatchable TV series. As a result, price hikes, ad insertions, and deteriorating service have become the norm. This further alienates users and drives more of them back to piracy, not out of principle, but because it simply works better. Studios now face a no-win scenario: either compete and fragment the industry, or consolidate and risk empowering their fiercest competitor. The lesson, perhaps, lies in the success of music platforms, not in defeating piracy through force, but in making it unnecessary. Thanks for watching InvestingFlix, where smart money learns smarter moves. Subscribe for more insights that grow your wealth.